Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Speaking Truth to Power podcast with me, Alex Fraysse, and our wonderful co-host,
Victoria Fenton. That's me.
Exactly. Magical. And Victoria.
Yes.
How are you today?
And
how have you been this week?
Busy week. Another busy week. Very interesting stuff happening in my life with little shift around in kind of my coaching container, which has been incredibly interesting, and new people heading up things, and had the opportunity to be coached by one of the master coaches that's at the head of our training, and was a pretty epic, very crazy 20 minutes, which I can't particularly remember. It's on recorded, like I need to watch it again and work out what happened, but it sparked off a lot for me. So very interesting personally, professionally, making a lot of changes and doing a lot of standing up for what I need stuff. So there's a lot of interesting things happening and moving in the right direction, I think. But it's definitely autumn/winter in South Africa now. We've had cold, rains, it's been a thing, bit of a storm. So the mood is changing. But yeah, all in all, I think it's been an okay week. How about you?
My week, actually pretty good, pretty calm for the most part, which has been pretty good. I had a successful time doing certain things that needed to be done for both businesses. So I will be launching my new website for Healthy Pillars, my consultation business, which is lovely. So I'll be probably doing that on Monday.
Soon.
Yeah. So everything is good. Can release it to the masses. Everybody who needs help with herbs, come to me. I'll sort you out. And generally pretty good week trading. Apart from yesterday, which got caught very off guard and was quite painful. But you live, you learn. You learn a lot of things about the market very easily. And actually, I was speaking to my dad a lot yesterday, because Dad, having worked in finance and everything, it was very useful to have someone to sort of sound off on, just to talk about certain concepts and aspects. So, Dad, if you end up watching this, thank you very much. I love you. Thanks for the typical dad comments. Some of which were very helpful. Some of which I'm like, dude, why? As you know, wonderful man who I'm very, very grateful for. But weeks aside, today's topic is vaccines.
Woohoo! We're going there. Like dropping all pretenses to be PC. Not that we've actually tried to do that. And we are going into vaccinations.
Yeah, we are. And for those of you who may get a little bit triggered, or as the young kids these days would like to say, butt hurt.
What?
Sorry.
What?
Butt hurt.
Triggered is fine. We don't need an extra word for this, young people.
Okay. Well, if young people aren't watching this, you know what we're talking about.
I'm clearly too old. I've aged out of the lexicon. Triggered. Okay. For people who might get triggered.
The people who might get triggered, we will just ask you to listen what we are saying. We're just offering our views and being as neutral as possible, and sharing our own opinions from our own experiences with everything. If you are triggered and you do want to talk to us, by all means, comment down below, or send us an email to our never checked email address.
I was going to say, never checked.
But we will check them, because I will be taking charge of checking the emails to make sure that we.
You could have done this. Speaking truth to power podcast at gmail.com, people. If you've emailed us, I again apologize, and again say, if you do email us, send us a DM as well. Just say, check your inbox, because we'll do it.
Exactly. So let's start off with the big V for the current big C in the world today. Or do you have something you would like to drop in before
Just
we
wanted
start?
to drop in the typical legal disclaimer of this is not
Yes,
medical
please.
advice. We are not your physicians. We do not offer medical advice at all. Anyway, we are both natural practitioners, so we are not here to recommend on medications, prescriptions, etc. So this is all a discussion around not only the vaccines specifically, the V for the big C, as Alex has just mentioned, but generally vaccinations as a principle in terms of in healthcare, from a very grounded and neutral perspective. And it's also worth saying that I have no idea what Alex's opinions on vaccines are. We don't plan these chats. We have no kind of preparation on like what we're going to say. So this is going to be as interesting for both of us as it will be for you guys listening. And also just to say, fingers crossed, yes. Also just to say, the background for me is I have spent an enormous amount of time in the research, reading the original studies for all of the V's for the big C, in the last, I don't know, however many months it's been. And I've done a heck of a lot of research because obviously all of my patients have asked me, should I have the vaccine? Which vaccine should I have? Blah, 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 blah. So this is not me talking from an emotionally triggered or traumatized or whatever it is perspective. This is me speaking. When I'm speaking, I will be speaking from that perspective, but also from the perspective of dealing with patients who are making decisions about their health. And I'm sure Alex will be doing the same. So,
As much as I can, as much as is humanly and spiritually possible, absolutely. But let us start off with the big V for the big current C. For those of you who do not understand this, we're talking about the vaccine for COVID-19. But I'm hoping that most of you are well educated and well read enough to understand what we are going to be talking about first off.
yeah.
So, Victoria, shall we start with where does this vaccine come from?
Okay. Which particular vaccine? So we have several COVID vaccines.
So if we do, let's stick with the English ones because we're from England. So Pfizer and it's Moderna. So that's the AstraZeneca one.
No. So Pfizer and Moderna are over here, and AstraZeneca, Oxford over here.
Oh, fine. Okay.
Yeah. So Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA vaccines, which is one thing. And AstraZeneca, Oxford, also Novavax, Johnson & Johnson, because I'm in South Africa, we've kind of got those. I don't think we've got Novavax yet, but definitely the Johnson & Johnson one. They are conventional vaccines. So that's your kind of balance of vaccinations in this picture.
Very nice, very nice. And have you yourself got the vaccine?
No, I actually don't know that I could. I mean, I'm covered on. We pay for private health insurance here, so I've been covered on. You have to be. It's a bit more of an American system. So I have health insurance here, and I have had emails about stuff, but haven't, as far as I'm aware, been offered it. Cause just to give you context, South Africa are a good way behind the UK. So I think elderly have been offered it, and frontline healthcare workers. It's trickling down, but it's nowhere near the scale of vaccination program that's in the UK. So I haven't been offered it. I've probably had a text from my GP in the UK, but they don't have the right number. So like that's not got to me. So yeah, Victoria's kind of off the grid.
Wonderful, magical, great. Off-grid Victoria, we like.
I know. How about you? How about you?
No, I have not had the vaccine, and no, I will not be getting the vaccine.
Okay.
As a young, fit 33-year-old, I don't feel the need for the vaccine. For those of you who, I'm not opposed to other people getting it. For instance, my parents have got the vaccine. My mom, unfortunately, has had terrible side effects, like really bad side effects from the vaccine. And now 3 weeks later, she's just developed stomach issues.
Yes.
So massive stomach issues, which is not great. In the first 2 weeks, there was a lot of chronic fatigue, pain in the sinuses, fuzzy head, all of that, which wasn't ideal. But and then it was funny because then a mom's friend of mine who's 80 something years old, he's in his 80s, no symptoms, no side effects whatsoever. So it's quite interesting how it affects different people very, very differently, actually.
Yeah. And it's interesting. So I'm humming along because obviously a lot of my patients have had the vaccine, and I'm hearing a lot of like terrible side effects, sort of good fortnight of stuff, a lot of gut stuff. I've also had a lot of patients who actually got COVID and then long COVID, which has had gut complications. So there's a lot to sort of think about. So which vaccine did your mum have?
Mum got, I think she got the Moderna.
Interesting. So yeah.
I think it, yeah, I think she said the Moderna. From what I am aware of, I'll double check with her. She may have had I can't actually remember because she just said I'm getting the vaccine. She hasn't actually said which one. She mentioned it at dinner with some friends the other night. But all of them, they're all my mom's friends with all my mom's age around in their 60s, apart from the gentleman in his 80s. They'd all got the vaccine, but they'd all got different ones. So two of them had got the Moderna, two of them had got the AstraZeneca. So I can't remember which one. All I know is that, yeah, symptoms for mum, although my dad's also got it and he hasn't had that bad symptoms, to be honest.
And it's interesting because of the two different types of vaccines. So let's just break down a bit of the science on the vaccines. So
Yeah.
Pfizer and Moderna have created what are called mRNA vaccines. There's a lot of hysteria on the internet of, oh, this is mutating my DNA. And it's not an accurate thing to say that it's mutating your DNA. However, there is an RNA component, the clue's in the name for the mRNA vaccine. There is a lot of, it would be more accurate to classify this as actually gene therapy. There's already in existence in the market cancer drugs which use mRNA as a way to create memory within your DNA of an antigen, a foreign body, in this case, in the vaccine's case, in particular, the spike protein that is part of the the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And that is put into effectively a little fatty layer, which then gets into your cells. The DNA of your cells will create a replication of part of this virus. It is just a part, to which your own immune system will go, oh, we don't like that. Let's create some antibodies. And those antibodies will have a memory associated with them so that your immune system has a memory of SARS-CoV-2. So that when you get SARS-CoV-2 in your actual system, your immune system already goes, yeah, we don't like that guy, and instantly fights it. It's a much quicker immune response. This is why the effect of all of the vaccines is not preventing getting COVID or preventing transmission of COVID. The impact is that they prevent the severity of certain people getting really bad symptoms. And the reason that happens is because if your immune system recognizes that it's a problem super quick, it fights immediately. Whereas what seemed to be happening with people who were exposed to SARS-CoV-2 is that it would take a good few days for their immune system to even know that there was anything happening in their body. Then there's way more virus around, then there's way more response. And including with SARS-CoV-2, there has also been this kind of 7 to 10 day increased inflammatory response where people have had like bad, but getting a bit better, and then they crash again. So having pre-exposure, whether through conventional vaccine, where they just inject, well, we'll come on to that, but they inject a part of the virus, same part actually, it's just like a part of the spike protein, or these mRNA ones. So your immune system has a memory. But the thing with the mRNA ones is that they are creating it's basically turning your cells into a gene replication factory for SARS-CoV-2, which feels a bit odd to people. You know, when you talk about it, it feels a bit odd.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we're not going to be growing third legs, a monkey tail or anything, right?
Well, not from the Moderna vaccine. There may be other mutations happening, but it isn't. This is, I get that people say it's gene therapy, and there's a lot of statements that people are getting this into the vaccine category so that because there's different legal permissions for vaccines versus other medications. So if this wasn't classed as a vaccine, it would be subject to way more stringent regulations. It would be, there would be a lot more reporting on it. And also, essentially, we can sue drug companies for various other medications. There's a huge clause in law that you cannot sue drug companies for vaccine side effects, particularly if they are on the label. And if you've read a label of a vaccine, which you won't have done, by the way, because you just get given it in the hospital or the doctor's office.
Yeah.
But if you read the disclaimers on any vaccine, all vaccines, every symptom known to man, every side effect is on there. So legally, there's a massive loophole in the industry where you cannot have any litigation against a drug company that's created a vaccine, providing it said your side effect on the leaflet. So there's a thought process that there's a thought process.
Sneaky. That's all I'm saying. Super sneaky, very suspect.
Yeah.
Very, very suspect.
And the argument could be had that, well, yes, but global pandemic. So maybe there is a need to speed up approval, regulation, all of those kinds of things. And therefore getting it in under the vaccine banner, because it is kind of a vaccine, might have sped things up. I don't know. I don't work in regulation. Yeah. The very fact that if you start looking for evidence to this that we're speaking about on the internet, you can't find it. It says a lot about what's being hidden in terms of creation of vaccines. So we'll say that much.
Yes.
Does that make sense for like mRNA vaccines? Have I made sense of the science behind that?
I would hope so. It seems pretty crystal clear to me, and I hope to our listeners that has provided a very crystal clear explanation as to what the mRNA vaccine is, and not to worry about growing, a third leg, a monkey tail, some wings. Like you're not going to be a flying monkey flinging shit at people in the streets anytime soon. I know you want to be Victoria, but I'm afraid like you can't be the fairy in pink in a pink shirt. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Maybe not in this lifetime. Maybe in an alternate dimension where fairies are actually in the real world, you can be one.
You saying fairies are not in this world? Because we're about to have an argument.
No, not as visible as you and I in the flesh.
Okay.
But you know me. I mean, me in the woods.
Doing your tree hugging. Yeah, no, totally.
Exactly. So me and my mate Bob the tree. We're tight. What can I say? Bob's the man. He's got deep roots. Wonderful fairy friends around him. It's rather wonderful. But no, yes, the vaccine is, it's been. I think what a lot of people are worried about is the fact that it's been rushed out very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Less than a year, and there are no trials to show if it's actually going to be beneficial long term, or if it will be detrimental long term. It's kind of, we are the N of one experiment on a mass global level, which to a lot of people, I think, who I would like to say have more than just a modicum of common sense, and aware of health as well. This is slightly worrying. Because other vaccines, let's say malaria, even MMR, whatever you want to call it, they've had 15, 20 years worth of evidence kind of with them. So I think more people feel a little bit more comfortable with that than with something that's been immediately rushed out for this flu virus.
Which is interesting, and it's interesting as a point because you say that they've had that much evidence, and yet it's just a psychological thing. That's massive cognitive dissidence on the heart of like people just saying yay to vaccines. So let's just get into this by talking about the difference what the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is. It's a conventional vaccine, let's put it that way, as in if you've read, oh my god, it's chimp DNA and or it's got the DNA of a fetus in, get better guidance on reading labels. There's loads of like videos flying around the internet where it's like, oh, this is like the DNA of a fetus. It's like, it's not. What happened, I can't remember the date now, 1962 or something like that. There is the part of the extract from a fetus was used as a sequence to resequence within a laboratory lots and lots and lots and lots of gene sequencing. if we did not use the original human genome from something, whether that's a 14-week-old fetus or anything, we would not have genomes to sequence. So in the name of science, the repeated sequence, it's not still the original fetal DNA. It is a carbon copy created laboratory-wise. That sequence, infrastructure, it's basically the infrastructure of a bit of a histological and unique thing, to keep it super simple, is the spike protein genetic sequence is placed within all of this, along with some chimp adenovirus normally, because the immune system needs to fight it, and it won't fight a random string of stuff. It needs to actually create a fight. So there's often a couple of bits in a normal vaccine, which is why that there's quite a lot of impact in certain things. So effectively, you inject the vaccine into your bloodstream. It's not like the mRNA vaccine where the fatty lipid thing gets into cells. It's very much more your immune system just sees it, various cells of your immune system sees it flying around your bloodstream and goes, whoa, we don't like the look of that. Creates an immune response. Literally, that's what it does. The little macrocytes going, woohoo, no. Macrophages. Anyway, Alex's look on the YouTube video is like, he's appalled. Anyway. Woohoo! No. No. Yeah. So yes, the immune, and then of course the immune system has fought this string of this virus. So it's a very specific section again, so the spike protein again, and therefore there is a memory, and therefore when actual SARS-CoV-2 comes into your system, the immune system has the memory. It's interesting because a lot of the, oh my goodness, this Oxford one is not effective against particularly the South Africa variant, comes because viruses mutate. They mutate very quickly. The spike protein in particular mutates really quickly because the spike protein is the bit that allows it to attach to the cells, particularly in SARS-CoV-2's case, the cells of ACE2 receptors. So when you're looking at like vaccinations, the bit that you put in as the viral component bit is really quite important because that's what encodes a memory or a recognition into the immune system. So if you've got the wrong bit or the bit changes, suddenly there's no memory anymore. So that's the kind of background of normal vaccinations. And that's that is every other vaccine that you've ever had or heard of falls into that camp, including what you were saying about malaria and other things like that. And what's interesting is the trials for these vaccines. So particularly within, it's slightly different within these sort of new SARS-CoV-2 vaccines. There were some arms in which the placebo, because obviously when you're doing randomized control trials, you need the actual drug and then you need a placebo. In almost every vaccine trial in history, the placebo has not been saline solution. It has been a different vaccine. So just to put that out there in terms of what is placebo? Placebo should be a neutral alternative to the stressor. A different vaccine is not a neutral alternative to the stressor. It is a different vaccine. So when you look at that as kind of a received wisdom of vaccines efficacy, there's many ways to assess efficacy. How many antibodies does your immune system create? Are those antibodies neutralizing antibodies, as in do they grab onto the virus thing and actually neutralize it, make it benign? And does that have long-term effects? How long do those antibodies last? Are those antibodies, which T cells, B cells, which type of immune cells are they? Is it memory? Is it all of that? It's very, the immune system's freaking complicated, guys. Like it's freaking complicated. And when we're trying to hack it by giving you a vaccine, we actually don't know the full delineation, particularly with these SARS-CoV-2 ones. It's like, well, okay. When you're looking at historic vaccination studies and you're looking at, well, we've tried it out, but the placebo was like malaria vaccine or whatever it is. That's not nothing. That's not a neutral that's not a neutral thing without a side effect.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And actually, I want to talk about something quickly with regards to how I believe it was how the Oxford vaccine was made. So my physio, he works with high-level doctors and neuroscientists and everything, and he openly admits like, dude, most of the stuff goes over my head. You know, I'm a physio and I love, he works with fascia and everything. Well, anyway, it's a different story, but he knows many people, and even his bosses who are very well known within, let's say, the medical community, explained to him how the vaccine was essentially made. And they said, listen, they took a whole bunch of the most effective vaccines. Sorry, I don't know why I'm doing this. The most effective vaccines around. And what they did is they started testing each and every single one against SARS-CoV-2, obviously in a petri dish more than you know, in vitro more than in vivo, but they started finding out which ones were the most effective, you know, and they boiled it down to like the top 10, then the top 6, I think, then like the top 3, and then they started taking pieces of each vaccine, which was the most effective in certain parts, and then created it together. So kind of but this is also how, as he was explaining to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was saying how this is how a lot of vaccines are made. They're made from previous vaccines and their history of effectiveness, and then those sequences being used in new ones and new ones being added in to help with the current strain. And that's also why we get a new flu vaccine every year, because you base it off the old, and then you kind of, I don't want to say genetically modify it, but like you kind of essentially genetically modify it. There's no other way to put it, I'm afraid. But that's kind of how a lot of these, and especially this SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 vaccine was originally made. It's an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different ones which have been super effective in a number of different trials and in a number of different ways, and then mixed in together and essentially punted out to the masses, hoping it would work in vivo. Because there's only in vitro in which they've been able to do it, and then we'll see how effective it is in terms of your immune response, if we just keep it nice and simple. Because again, if we get into T cells and B cells and lymphocytes, and then it gets a bit too overwhelming, and then we can do a podcast on that alone in the immune system, but let's just keep it a bit more layman's, so to speak.
And that's, so if you've seen the video on the internet which talks about the Chadox thing and the weird, that's how they've bolted bits together from, and the whole chimp bit and the cold virus and the thing. That's how they create what is essentially what they believe will be the most effective vaccination strategy. And then they just whack a piece of DNA from the SARS-CoV-2, and then that's how the vaccine, quote, works. And it's really interesting to talk about works, because as I said at the opening, I've looked at all of the trial study papers, and it really is very interesting what people believe is going to happen when they have a vaccine and what the trials actually show. And the trials, it's become very important for me in my awareness to understand the questions that people ask. So the questions that the trials were asking was, how many people report back to us with symptoms post-vaccine, and we test them and they have SARS-CoV-2. COVID-19.
Victoria, may I ask you, I have to quickly answer the door, because the guy who's non-stop buzzing the door.
You go. I'll finish this explanation. You go. I'm going to keep talking. So the trials were very much along the lines of, if you report symptoms and then get tested after having had the vaccine over a course of a number of days. Now, the original trial designs were for 365 days. Obviously, none of them have gone to that length of time. So they were doing it mostly within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, that kind of stuff, and then up to 3 months. But the reality within the way that the trials were designed is that people were not tested just generally. It wasn't like every 2 days come in and have a SARS-CoV-2 test, see if you've got COVID. It was very much if you've got symptoms, let us know. So what we don't know about the vaccines is, did everyone who'd had the vaccine have asymptomatic COVID? Were they carrying it? Were they transmitting it? Did they turn into super powerful super spreaders because they didn't know they had it? They weren't reporting symptoms. So there's a lot of variation for me, particularly within trial design. And I read them all and I laughed uproariously, because I was like, really? Like, you could just, I mean, the trials weren't massive. There were thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands. You could have just standardized testing every 2 days and seen whether it was effective against asymptomatic transmission. And I wouldn't even need to say this, because it might be. I don't know. We just don't have a trial that told us. And so it's just very odd. And every trial was like that. I've looked at all of them, and they were all designed where there wasn't repeated testing. Since, just to caveat that, there has been a I think it was medical students or something to do with, was it Oxford or Cambridge? I can't remember. I'm forgetting all the details, but there has been a trial where they were tested regularly. It seems that the vaccines do prevent a little bit of asymptomatic transmission as well, or asymptomatic carrying. But the test was on 2,000 people. I think it was very, very small.
Yeah, very, very small. And statisticians love to highlight, we don't know if it was, a p0.05005 significance.
Hopefully, yeah.
Which, to those of you who have no idea what that means, it just means, yes, it's true. If if you keep it in English, it just means, yes, this proves that this was correct in his thought process. But there was none of that, because not the time, not appropriate testing conditions and testing parameters. So therefore, for those of us who know how to read research, we would read it and be like, well, this is kind of null and void. This is kind of moot. Like this is kind of a bit of horse shit. And hello, Artemis. We have our cat.
Is like getting involved.
There he is. There he is. Yeah, getting involved. Yeah. Support cat, mascot. Lovely. Yes. Hi.
So, with all this background in terms of vaccines, what the types of vaccines are, what the trials have shown, etc., what's your feeling on the level of peer pressure that is currently existing, particularly within the UK, pressure for the vaccine?
Oh my God, Jesus Christ! It's absolutely awful, is all I'm going to say. It feels like you're at school and everyone's smoking and you're the only one who's not smoking, and it's like, you're not cool if you don't smoke. I'm like, but I don't want to damage my lungs. And they're like, yeah, but you can't sit with us then. You're like, well, fine. I won't sit with you. Okay. I guess I'm just going to go on the end of the table and be all alone with all the other supposed weird kids who just don't want to do what you're doing.
And it's so funny. It's like, and I keep saying this to people, it's like never in the history of humankind has your medical record been public for public consumption. Your employer can't ask for it. You don't like, but now your medical record is like your Facebook status. I've been vaccinated. It's like, what? Like, no, this is not, there's so many levels of not okay to this, because if this is what people are shouting about, where does it end? And
exactly.
Mostly my clients have been, instinct towards not having it. Basically, my clients as well, just to clarify, are quite vulnerable people. So there is that toss up between, if I get COVID, it might be that bad, but also I'm likely to have all of the freaking side effects from these things, including the allergy profile, particularly with the mRNA vaccine. So that allergenic profile that was there with regards to the PEG in the, I said PEG, polyethylene glycol in the fatty bilayer of the mRNA. It's caused quite a lot of problems. So they're like, I really don't want to put myself in like a crazy position of like possibly dying from anaphylaxis because I'm worried about the symptoms. But I have had to say to more than one client that the cost to their mental health from the peer pressure around them meant getting the vaccine was the right thing to do. Wow. Like, why are we in a situation where you have to get a vaccine that you don't want for your mental health because the people around you are indoctrinating you into having it? This is not saying never have a vaccine. If you want the vaccine, my family have had it, just go get it. And if you get side effects, I'm deeply compassionate. They will go. Like, they're 2 weeks, you'll be fine. But this propaganda machine that has raged over the last year and more over COVID itself, then all of the shit around like track and test and trace and like all of whatever that is, and then the vaccines, I feel like the whole world is very volatile at the moment because we've been subjected to over a year of propaganda, but also fear patterning. There's so much
manipulation.
Completely. Yes.
Is what it is, and we've been completely manipulated from the very beginning, hyperinflating the news as to numbers of people who have tested positive, people who are dying from it, and all of that. And like you have certain, I mean, there are certain videos of certain execs in news agencies these days who've been caught saying, yeah, we just hype up the numbers because it gives us better ratings. And I watched a video the other day, and I googled the guy. I can't remember his name, but he's a high-ranking exec of a American network, and he was saying it's kind of messed up. You know, obviously we don't want people to die and stuff, but like it gives us ratings. And I am paraphrasing, but the video's there, and it's basically a you know, when people go into what's it called? Not it's like not a stunt. It's oh god, I forget the word. It's how annoying. It's when people go into kind of like chat people into admitting that what they're doing is.
Oh yeah, got it. Yeah.
And he flat out came out and said it, and it's kind of worrying, to be honest. And also when you see the people in charge of certain things, and you see their associations and ties with big pharma, with drug associations, legislations. It smells a bit like the fish market in the sun, is what I'm going to say. And in my opinion, it smells like that. To others, it may smell wonderful. If it does, I'm happy you like that smell.
And bear in mind, I'm in Africa. So there's a whole different perspective in Africa to vaccines, to viruses, and to Bill Gates, basically.
Oh, yes. He's a very popular man in Africa, isn't he?
Well, yes and no. So it's a funny situation. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know that he's name checked by people in townships. And yet medicines for HIV save lives here. And HIV is possibly the greatest example that nobody in science has any freaking clue what the immune system's doing, because it is one of those virus ? What is causing this ? Situation. There's a lot more willingness to have vaccines here because everyone here is vaccinated at birth for various things. And there's a lot of stuff. HIV is the one thing that we can't like vaccinate against because we'd have no idea how to. There is no viral universality to a lot of it. That's very complicated if you go down the HIV direction. However, Africa, Greater Africa, not always South Africa, but Africa as a whole, is often an experimented on populace, as in, well, we know viruses are rife, we're just going to use them to experiment with our vaccines, coupled with the Gates Foundation and others teaming up with various funding arms here to actually support local communities, support getting technologies into communities, etc. And you could, of course, be a bit skeptical about if you provide the technological and the financial infrastructure for township communities, particularly of the blacks and the coloreds, you actually control them because you're controlling the technology and the finances. But, you know, it's allowing people to access stuff that they never would have done. And there's a lot of... there's a lot of links that there's some interesting diagrams floating around the interwebs. It's very difficult for us as regular human beings to fully understand the interweaving relationship between things at the head of this, and also why. And I've sat with the motivation why question for a year now. And every time I think, oh, it's a power play, or it's they want to control this, or I'm not sure I've nailed the why. I have no idea. But it is quite an interesting thing.
I think you've already nailed the core why, like the essence of the why. So like a power, but it's then when you get into the micro, okay, how does it influence? Where do they want it? How do they want to apply it?
Yeah.
You know, if you are funding people, it's almost like you're buying them. And it's like, well, scratch my back, scratch yours, but this is more you know, you're going to have, you owe me a favor.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Kind of vibe, which is to me rather worrying. And I know in certain countries, the Gates Foundation is very much not well liked. I know a lot of people love what he does, and again, they've done good things for certain areas of the world. They've also done some very shady things, which I think is the information is out there for anyone who wants to research as to certain vaccines and fertility. Is all I'm going to say. have a research into that and see the layers, how that unwinds. But I always feel, within the last year, it's been a massive psychological operation, and it's what the conspiracy theorists want to call a psyop. And for me, the really worrying thing is that a lot of what they've been saying has kind of come true. And it's not to say everything they said has come true. Obviously, a lot of what they said hasn't. But a lot of the major points on what's been happening has happened. And it's a little bit worrying for those with a slightly more open mind as to what is afoot. And I think this is where, as natural practitioners, we don't have to. What I would like us to do is to stand strong and teach the world and teach the people about how to naturally fight off viruses and flus and boost your immune system naturally through the use of herbal medicine, diet, fasting, supplements, inhaling your cats because it smells like the divine incarnate in a cat's body. But not everyone has cats, so go get a cat, adopt a cat. Of course, cats are life. Back to the immune system. Exercise, saunas, cold showers, to a degree, cold showers, I will say. You have to be careful that you don't overdo it and you hyper-stimulate yourself, which then, as a result, causes a lowering of the immune system. But you have all these wonderful natural alternatives, which are there to help boost up and protect yourself, and realize that, there's an extremely high survival rate. I believe it's in the 99.96 category-ish. Roundabouts.
I don't think it's quite that high, but it's near. It's yeah, there's a really big survival rate. Yeah.
So, and for other viruses, there isn't such a high survival rate. Yet there's no pandemic. We're all not wearing masks and wearing gloves. Certain people wearing buckets on their heads because they believe wearing a bucket on their head will protect them. Yes, I've seen buckets on heads in supermarkets, and it's been.
Well, you've actually seen it, or like
I've actually seen it, and I'm really there looking at them, trying not to laugh. I'm trying really hard, but I'm dying on the inside. But also deeply disappointed and worried about their mental health, that they have gone that far. I kind of wanted to ask them, are you okay? Like, how are you doing? Because you don't look well. You're wearing a bucket on your head. What are you doing?
Yeah, this is the interesting thing. So you mentioned a load of stuff like nutrition, supplements, look after your body, look after your health, physiology, exercise, all that. Mindset is more than 50% of your immune system. And I'll explain that in the scientific way for people who are like, oh, woo-woo. Like, no. Your nervous system.
But it is.
It is.
It actually is, though. Ladies and gentlemen, Victoria is speaking the truth there. Mindset is so important for not only immune system, but everything.
And I'm going to explain why. I'll break it down for you. Like, your nervous system regulates absolutely everything. So your central nervous system is responsible for marshalling responses from the inside. It basically takes all of the information, feedback from your physical body, and all of the information from the outside, and everything your senses are feeding into your brain. Central processing unit, which goes, okay, given that from the outside, this is what we need to do on the inside. The bit in the brain part of it, which is mindset, is whatever that external input feeds into is the backdrop for whether it believes your body needs to be stressed or not. And so the patterns that we keep in our brain, from historic trauma to the fear patterning from the propaganda, will define how threatening your nervous system interprets the outside world to be. If you are in threat state, your sympathetic nervous system, i.e. your fight, flight, freeze, fawn, which however you want to describe it, that on active state is upregulated. You are in massive tension. your immune system's already going batshit crazy. It will miss the obvious and it will then overfight, and then you'll get massive inflammation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also long-term stress will send you into basically hypoarousal. So there will be no immune response because you're absolutely frozen. So we think that Sky News putting the COVID ticker tracker cases in the top left-hand corner and then transforming it to the how many of us have been vaccinated ticker tracker thing was a good thing for humanity. We have missed the basics of biochemistry, which is the physiological state you are in, and your window of tolerance to shit determines how you will respond to it and how effective your innate internal processes are. So if you're worried about getting the virus, to a degree, and this is what I started to say to my patients, if you're worried about getting the vaccine, the one thing you can really regulate is your own nervous system and the amount of stress you're in, because that will change your response to COVID. It will change your response to bucket person in the supermarket. It will also change the response to the vaccine, the virus, the everything. It will just, it's like the master switch of everything. It's not me saying things are in your head. It's me saying that your brain and your thoughts are the most powerful tool we have to leverage healing universally, whatever is going on.
Yes, and I completely agree. What I will add in as almost a devil's advocate is that it's incredibly difficult when let's say everyone around you is completely, let's say, fear-based and fear-mongering and peer pressuring. And if you're the only one within your circle, whether it's your family, your friends, your workspace, whatever it is, if you're the only one trying to stand up, it's going to be incredibly tough. And you know, we're not saying, oh, it's an easy fix, just change your mindset, change everything. It's not that. It's obviously much more complicated than that. And if you are going to make that change, I salute you, and I'm sure Victoria does too. You will need a community around you. It's really that simple. If you don't have the community around you to support you, you will feel alone on an island, and you will eventually capitulate. Because if you're not used to being strong mentally and to saying no and saying no repeatedly and standing your ground, it's an uphill battle. And I mean, uphill in the fact that it's raining, it's muddy, and you're trying to walk up the hill, it's very slippery and very difficult. But if you have a team around you, you know, people are at the top of the hill and they throw you down a rope and they can help pull you up, it becomes a lot easier. So and all of these things are massively, massively important.
Completely. And for me, like, I sound super strong, etc., and to a degree I am, but do you think I'm watching the news anymore? No. And even my mum the other day tried to have a conversation with me. She'd watched a documentary about the original Wuhan laboratory thing, and she was like talking, and I was listening, and she finished what she was saying, and she said, so what do you think? And I said, I can't think about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm literally not going to let my brain go to, was this released from a Wuhan laboratory? Why were they experimenting on coronaviruses? Or was it a fruit bat in a wet market in China? I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And the more I stress about some kind of crazy conspiracy theory about it, the less centered I am in my sovereignty. And so this is why we started this podcast by saying we're going to be neutral. Now, you might feel that we've fallen down a bit on the quote unquote anti-vax side, but realistically, we've both fallen down on the side of research, evidence, and not wanting to be part of an experiment when we are two healthy 30, 33, 34-year-olds where we have healthy immune systems. And people know my history. You guys know that I have a laundry list of diagnoses and I'm still not scared of the virus and I still don't want the vaccine. And so when you're talking about like all of this stuff, you just have to recognize that mindset means that you can say to people, I don't want to talk about it, but going to the extremes of being conspiracy theorist about it and actually diving down those rabbit holes of kind of crazy, it's massively draining to the body anyway. In fact, one of my Elementum fellow coaching buddies, I'm not really connected to him directly, except he's very into gene keys, found the gene keys and was like putting on his stories. And I was like, oh my God, you found them. That's amazing. And he, I think, has been very invested in COVID, or anti-COVID, or like conspiracy theory, like, but not conspiracy theories, just pointing out the truth of stuff that people know. And he put some stories up the other day where he was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, it's taking so much from my nervous system to keep focused on educating everyone about the things. And I had mad respect for that, because I mean, anybody who's followed me for a while will know that right at the beginning of lockdowns, I was doing a series of talks for a company here in South Africa, and on virtual, obviously. And it started off with a lot of COVID stuff. I spent a long time in the, I just can't do it anymore. And I'm having to get to the stage where if anybody wants a conversation with me about it, if it's a client, they're paying me, so I kind of have to talk about it. But if it's a family member, depends what they come with. If it's a family member who's like, I really want your opinion, Victoria, of course I'll discuss it. But if it's just a general chit chat around bullshit around bloody fucking COVID, that's me putting the explicit warning again on this podcast.
Yeah.
Then I can't be fucked. I'm sorry.
Fuck shit. There we go. We've done it.
Bollocks. Like, no.
Yeah, it's all bullshit. And it's funny because you mentioned that, because the other day when my mother had her friends over for dinner, got onto the topic of vaccines, and my energy just had literally just absolutely dropped. And they were saying all this stuff, and I kept on saying, I categorically disagree with what you're saying. Because they were coming out from the fear, like, oh, you're not going to be able to travel if you don't get the vaccine. They're going to get the passports, and then if you can't, what? You're not going to travel? You're not going to go anywhere? I'm like, no. Also trying to start a business, so I am also not that invested in leaving the country so much. But at the same time, no, I'm not that interested, because I don't think it's going to be a legal requirement. Also because it infringes upon human civil rights, and you can go to the Geneva Convention and sue the shit out of anyone who tries to force you to do it.
Completely, yeah.
So problem kind of solved. But it's a very draining topic, and I got into the aspects of the conspiracy theories side of COVID in the beginning.
Sure.
I have a friend of mine who is in touch with, let's say, certain royalty members who are in the know about a lot of shady stuff, let's say. So I got kind of like first-hand information as to what was actually really happening, and I was honestly horrified and terrified at the prospect of it. But it put me into a complete fear state mode. And my nervous system was running a lot higher than usual. And then me being me, I tapped into the collective energy, and the fear in the collective was and it still is horrendous. But back then at the peak, I literally almost fainted. I was out walking about with the person that I was kind of seeing last year, and she wanted to put round, little flyers into people's houses saying, by the way, if you can't go outside or you're too afraid, give me a call and I'll go buy stuff for you. And I was like, super sweet, super cute, but I was dying doing it, because just tapping in, it was so dense, so heavy, so dark. It was almost like black as night as to what was happening.
And I actually think that's when we connected a bit as well, because I remember having one day when I was sitting outside on my balcony in my old house. Like, I mean, people will have seen my old house if they follow me on Instagram. Beautiful location, stunning view, swimming pool right in front of me. And I literally felt like something was wrong with me. And I remember texting you going like, planet update, Fraysse, because like this is wrong. And we just we were like, yes, planets, but also collective energy, karma, flipping heavy. And I actually feel right now, like I've just like today and this week, you said, how's this week been? It's been great. Like I should be feeling way more up than I do. But I had a conversation with my mum this morning, and partly your bleeding elections and whatever the heck just happened.
Oh yeah,
God, I completely freaking missed. And then like I was just like, what's happening? Hartlepool's now gone Conservative. I mean, I grew up near Hartlepool. That's not what. And I'm like, I feel like there's something wrong. Like there's just this disjointed energy. It's just not.
Yeah. It's not cohesive, and it's kind of what was okay. So this is gonna get a bit more conspiracy, but it's kind of what was planned out. It's kind of its tactics of war. It's kind of Lao Tzu very much made it's like you learn to divide your enemy. When you divide them and you create division within themselves, that's so much easier to conquer. And when you have all the resources to do so, media outlets, influencers, celebrities who are all endorsing every left, right, and center, pay them a few bob, they'll happily do it. It becomes quite obvious and quite difficult to get out of everything that's kind of happening and all that fear-based, because it's all being shoved into your face by people who are seen to be trustworthy. And for those who are listening to this online, sorry, not via YouTube, very much trustworthy within Joey air quotes here. Trustworthy people who are saying this is the way to do it. And it's funny, any of the celebrities who have had a difference of opinion, they've all been shut down. They got attacked on the internet, on Twitter, on Instagram, or whatever. Like, as the young generation say, they got cancelled.
Well, and when you said we should do this topic, I said, can you talk about it? And you were like, why wouldn't I? And I said, well, I don't know, legality, cancel culture. Like, I'm very aware we could load this up to YouTube and it could be taken down.
Yeah. Which is why we're going to phrase it very carefully so they won't get taken down. And we're offering a very, hopefully as neutral as possible, obviously slightly biased point of view.
But YouTube algorithms don't much care about that. So basically, when you read the write-up for this, if you do, I will not write the word vaccine. It will have like hashtags and percentage signs, so that it's like swearing. Like, it's actually like how we used to put swear words. I can probably put fuck in the description written out
100%.
But if I put vaccine without a few asterisks or whatever, we'll get pulled.
Yeah, so we will say immune system, maybe. Something like that.
The V for the big C, I like that. I'm gonna.
Yeah, absolutely. The big V for the big C, hashtag. Copyrighted. Do not dare come after this, people. We are joking. Please use it liberally and share it with as many people as possible.
And tag us.
And tag us, because we would love to see what you're posting about, even if it's negative. We would still love to see it. Thank you very much. All press is good press, as they say in the world of PR. But coming back to, let's actually go on the topic of how to, without mindset, let's go more practical, practical stuff.
Yeah.
How we can easily support our immune system against viruses, full stop. And there are a lot of bloody ways in which you can do that. I mean, we can just do a podcast on all the herbs that do that, and the podcast will probably be about 2, 3, 4 hours long, because there's a lot of research on it. And funnily enough, most of the research comes from China, India, Iran, of all places. Iran has amazing research coming out of there, because they're not paid by pharma. A lot of these places do it because it's a part of their natural culture.
Totally. So great. It's why, like, there's a few things in medicine. Female hormones is one of them, and viral immune system stuff is the other, where I'm like, Chinese medicine all the way, herbal medicine.
And it's amazing, because the Chinese, at least within the naturopathic community and the health community, acupuncturists and traditional Chinese medicine practitioners had found the two major pathways that were being affected by COVID, which happened to be the lung meridian and the colon meridian. And obviously, for us, as we know, what is very useful to note is that when they treated those meridians with acupuncture and also with herbs, the virus kind of just left the body very easily. And and you use these certain herbs for these organs, and the great thing about herbs is, sure, it will help your lungs, but also help your immune system. So let's say we use, if I just give an easy one, like astragalus, right? Astragalus, beautiful herb, antiviral and adaptogen, great for your energy levels, actually helps with digestion as well, funnily enough. Wonderful tonic for the lungs, supports the lung qi and also the kidney qi. And it very much keeps things moving and alive, and kind of what you need, and also slightly warming, and COVID is slightly drying, right? And then you can have other herbs which help to move the colon, but also help to boost up the immune system. I mean, one that I do love quite a lot, and it's an indirect action on the colon, is barberry bark.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you also have something like Turkey rhubarb root, which is amazing. You know, really works at clearing the colon out. In large doses, it's a cathartic. In smaller doses, it's a tonic. So it helps to remove debris from your colon, and it actually helps to rebuild literally the tone of your colon. So when you do that, you have secondary and tertiary effects on the body, such as your liver and your lungs, because it clears everything up. And when those things clear up, your immune system becomes slightly stronger. That to me is a very common sense, complex systems way of looking at things, how every single organ is related to the other, how they all have knock-on and side effects on each one. And then if you want to go more targeted effects, I know in the West we have a certain protocol for helping to deal with COVID as much as possible, and it contains a list of things like andrographis, rhodiola, cordyceps, codinopsis. It has a few other herbs in there, actually hawthorn as well. A lot of these herbs act upon your ACE2 receptors, and they basically inhibit the binding of COVID onto your lungs. And then the great thing is they also have other effects. Andrographis is great for stopping viral replication. Astragalus has been shown to help prevent viral replication. And then you have things such as vitamin C, high dosing vitamin C. 3-4 grams a day. If you take it liposomally, you're definitely going to absorb more of it. The other way is just to have a lot of orange juice, but with the peel, ladies and gentlemen, not the juice. All the goodness is in the peel. So when you have orange juice, juice it with the peel. You want to have lemon, juice it with the peel. It's where you get all the bioflavonoids and all the essential oils which trigger beautiful sensations inside the body. And orange, great for lifting your mood as well. So you get vitamin C and you get a mood lift. What more do you want in these times?
And if anyone is totally overwhelmed with what Alex has just said, it's like, oh my God, there's so many herbs that they create complexes of this stuff, and they normally call them immune formula or immunoberry or like immune healer, or like just if you want a login for like practitioner grade supplements, just DM us, send us, we'll invite you to our systems. Honestly, there's so much stuff out there. Normally it's not code, it's BioRevive beta immune, BioRevive mycoimmune. Wonder what these things support. Do you know what I mean? And like myco might be mushrooms, and there you've got all of your mushroom adaptogens, which might help the immune system. And beta might be beta glucans, and beta glucans are great for the immune system. Calciprine. So this isn't like practitioners. If you need a specific support protocol, Alex is launching his new website tomorrow. Go on there, like hook yourself up with herbal wizardry. If that's a level too far, just buy an immune complex from a supplement company, a good supplement company. Holland and Barrett does not qualify.
No, don't go there. Don't buy their own brand stuff. It's horrendous. Don't go to Boots either and buy their terrible stuff. Do not do it.
I once had to find what was I trying to find? I got a cold. I was in London. And I was trying to find like zinc or vitamins. Zinc's great for the immune system. Just like a ton of zinc. Like amazing. And yeah, we could get into you really need zinc acetate lozenges. But like also just take frickin' zinc. But I was trying to find some zinc, and I had Boots. Found these fizzy vitamin C's with zinc, and I bought them thinking it's fizzy, it's vitamin C, it's zinc. I looked on the back. Oh my God, I was taking colors and flavors and fillers. And I was like, oh my God, I'm adding toxins to my body whilst I'm trying to create healing.
Better.
Not okay.
Exactly. It's super fucked up.
Super fucked up.
Super fucked up. And like, super important to say that it's super fucked up that all these people are putting all this shit in to all this healthy supplements. God damn, motherfucker, sort your shit out.
Totally. And going beyond, like, if you can't be bothered with the whole supplement thing and you think supplements are a waste of money and time, that's your prerogative. Eat well. Eat the rainbow, eat your fiber, drink tons of water.
Turmeric. Ginger, turmeric, food that you normally eat. Put it into a pot, simmer it for 15-20 minutes, put a lid on it, put a bit of rosemary, a bit of thyme in there. Your immune system, your gut is going to be super happy. You'll be super happy as a result. Super easy. No problemo. We have natural things in the kitchen which you can use if you don't want to buy supplements. It's like it's really not that hard.
Not that hard. And then maybe, you know, I might add in, particularly for physiological support, see a chiropractor.
Yep, absolutely. And if you don't like chiropractors, see an osteopath or see a fascia specialist. But, you know, it depends.
If you don't like chiropractors, talk to me about chiropractors, because
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
not okay to just not like chiropractors. They all do different things. Fascia people
Yeah,
do amazing things. Osteopaths do amazing things. Cranial osteopaths do amazing things. Chiropractors
exactly.
do an entirely different thing. But when we're talking about nervous system, we are back on chiropractors. If you want a chiropractic referral where you are, just touch in. We have good ones.
Yeah.
Um,
Super easy, super nice, and it keeps the body ready and in a state of ease as opposed to dis-ease, which
well,
viruses can cause and
it
mindsets.
effectively allows the brain and the body to communicate more effectively. You
Yeah,
know, so right. Why
you know,
wouldn't you do that when you're thinking, oh, there's a virus coming into my system? Maybe my body and my brain need to communicate.
maybe it could be helpful.
Maybe.
You know, it's something potentially worth considering.
Yeah.
Is what I would say, very kindly and not suggestively, and I would highly recommend that you definitely look into it.
Mhm. And then,
You know,
you know, for the other physical things,
sunshine, vitamin D, technically hormone D. I don't really want to call it vitamin D anymore because it's a hormone. But then if you get into hormone D, you're going to get all the people saying, oh, hormone D, the jokes are endless with this.
oh,
And
for God's sake, Alex.
sorry, I had to say it.
Well, I've been avoiding all the jokes on the big V for the big C for a long time, and you just went there with the big D. This is like,
of course. I mean, I'm horrified that you haven't made the jokes on this podcast about the big V for the big C. You know, like, come on. I literally laid it on a silver platter for you, and you didn't eat from it. You didn't eat the nectar and the fruit of the gods. I'm horrified that you are my podcast host this week.
oh my goodness, if anybody from Elementum is listening to this, just bolt this into what you know about me from Friday and just like die laughing. Yeah. And that's an in-joke, yeah. And I'm not going to reveal that on the podcast, but yes. Big D, but yes, you know, big C, all of that.
Get all the big fee, you know, get the D in you because it's very, very healthy. It literally will bring a smile to your face when you're outside exposed to it. You know, so it's definitely worth getting it, is what I can say.
As well, whilst we're being pornographic about things, sex is also great. Like, honestly, the release of like hormones post-sex, massively healing for the human body. Like, there's a reason. And
fantastic.
Not just sex, self-pleasure practices, men, women, the whole thing really like changes your physical chemical milieu, shall we say. Should we make it sound a bit posh? Just the rest.
That's so funny because I was talking to a friend about this on, when was it? I think it was a couple of days ago, put it that way. And I was telling her, you know, she was trying to explain how do I get more to my body. I'm like, honestly, self-pleasure is a wonderful way of getting in touch with your body. And then if you use oils with it, like essential oils, or if you use an oil infused with rose, for instance, very beautiful smell, opens up your heart, really calms your nervous system down at the same time. And, you know, you can do a self-pleasure practice with that, or you can just do a massage. It doesn't have to be a self-pleasure in terms of masturbation. It can be self-pleasure in terms of massaging your body, getting to know your body. And then you literally are releasing neurochemicals in your body because you're flooding your system with oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine. And if you combine that with breath work, you can literally elevate your response system to a whole nother level, and it becomes an incredible practice and art. And it's a lot of fun to do. So, you know, you can take, if you're uncomfortable, you can start with 5 minutes and then you build it up to 10, 15, 20. I know certain people who do it for an hour, because it's literally you know, if you want to light candles, light some candles, play some music which you really like, something to set the mood, and just go to town on yourself and really allow your system to respond naturally to what is happening. And you know what? If you end up crying, you end up having a bit of a release of anything. 100 points, not just 10, 100 points. That is excellent. Your system will thank you for that tenfold because there's so much you've been holding on to, which you needed to release. And if you look at that in terms of energy, you're releasing stagnation and you're allowing more energy to flow through that body part and through and around your body.
Mm-hmm. And you get 1,000 points if you have a crying orgasm. That's nailing the monopoly of this practice.
Exactly. That's the one. And I've had that a few times and it's absolutely incredible. You just like, oh, I'm so happy. Obviously not quite like that, and not fully clothed, but it's magical and it's wonderful. And if you haven't had one, don't say, oh, I need to experience it. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
It's
And
beautiful no matter how it happens.
Yeah. And only on the Speaking Truth to Power podcast will you go from COVID vaccines to self-pleasure practice and crying orgasms. That's the value we deliver, guys.
Exactly. That's how you can boost your immune system, guys. None of the other stuff, just this stuff.
Started with sex. We should all of that science. It's like we should have just started with the porn version.
Yeah. Exactly. The soft core porn version. No need for the hardcore stuff. Although if that's your thing, go for it. No shaming over here from me. That's all I'm going to say. But there are even getting back to other stuff which you can do, something which is so simple. Go be in nature.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Go be in nature and just watch how your system goes from being wide up here, like to down and more relaxed and more floofy, essentially speaking. Like you're much more floofy and you're much more you're floof. You're in the floof and you're part of the floof, and you start appreciating what the floof can do for you. And you suddenly realize that I am a big ball of floof and I want to bring the floof with me wherever I go. And I'm not talking about this in any type of weird way. I'm just talking that feeling of just feeling floofy, very much at calm, at ease, at one, for lack of a better term, with things, and watch how that can spill over in a positive way into other aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
How you react to conspiracy theories, how you react to the vaccine peer pressure, how you react to your boss at work, your girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, lover, ex, whatever it is, your pets falling off roofs, watch how your reaction changes.
And when it comes to nervous system re-regulation, I mean, if you can't get out into nature because it's shit weather or whatever, have a shower, water. And I was saying the other day to someone, I go to ground. So if I have done a full day of consults and I'm feeling that kind of very familiar to me, oh my God, I feel like I've been bled dry, I'll just almost crawl to a lying position on my rug and just be on my floor for a bit. It's like going to ground. You just need to get down on the floor. You can shake. You can just shake it all out, all of the stuff. You can dance around your living room to whatever your favorite music is. All of these in the body practices take you from to, by the way, anybody listening, that was accompanied by tension, claw hands, but it takes you from that it takes you from that level of agitation into not even relaxation, just regulation. It's not about relaxing is the only thing that works. It's about regulation.
Yeah. Regulation is so key. And then you'll find how everything else just becomes a lot easier when you learn to regulate. And once you regulate yourself, your immune system will regulate itself also. A very simple, easy crossover. And you won't have to worry about getting a vaccine or worrying about if you're going to get sick or whatever it is. You have all the tools at your disposal right there.
And just to reiterate, we don't know your medical history. We do not know your precise needs, your vulnerabilities, any of your health. So this is general information of stuff that you can do to feel empowered. If you're one of those people who's like, do I really need the vaccine? Do I want to take the vaccine? If you're gung-ho on the vaccine and none of this has made any difference to you, you won't still be listening. But, just to say, that's great. And if you want some personal advice from either of us, we are clinicians. We can offer that if you get in touch directly. But it won't be you send us an email and we say yay, nay on the vaccine or the virus.
Yeah. Not going to happen.
Because your potential reactions to a vaccine and your potential risk factors for a virus are entirely based on your entire complex health history. So that's what we'll be doing and taking you through.
Exactly. So please don't expect any yes or black and white answers. If you're looking to help support anything, it'll be, a complex system-based approach as to how your whole health is doing, and recommendations we made on that, on how to improve your overall levels of health, and not just one microscopic faction that you feel as if you need to focus on, because what you feel you need is probably not what you need. And that's where you come to people like us who can help you with what you need, or at least what we think you would most benefit from.
And that's the vast difference between what somebody specific would say versus the propaganda campaign that's out there at the moment, which is saying everybody, no matter who you are, no matter your age, like you all need the vaccine, including kids now. So
yeah, slightly horrifying, but I don't want to get into that. I'm not going to lie. That's just one that will boil the water within my pot a little too quickly.
So on that note, I feel that we are complete enough for today
I believe
for our
so.
topic of vaccines, viruses, etc. Do all the podcasty things, guys. Like, share, subscribe,
Comment,
reshare our Instagram post when we post about this, get the word out. If you believe our word is of value to your friends, family, loved ones, your network.
Exactly.
And we will speak to you next week. Take care, everyone.
Have a wonderful week, guys. Bye.